Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Legacy Farm, the podcast. This is your host, JC Young, and today's topic and discussion is this: the power of financial struggles. So I was just doing some chores and stuff around the house there over the weekend, and I thought this topic came up to me. I was listening to a podcast, and the guy mentioned, financial struggles, and I kind of related that back to my story. Now, what I'm going to be talking about is how we as parents, a lot of the time we want to protect our children from going through any financial struggles, financial adversity, financial problems, making poor financial decisions, or whatever that may be. And I am here in this podcast to tell you why that may be a recipe to teach them the exact opposite of what they actually need to learn in that experience. Now, I'm going to elaborate here and explain what I mean by this. So when I was growing up on the feed yard and everything, our parents took care of us. We never really had to want for anything. My parents took care of me, my brother, and my sister. They wanted to do what a lot of parents do. They wanted to protect us from making mistakes and protect us from making financial mistakes and things like that. And then obviously everything went under. I was with my parents when they got kicked out of their house, filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy, $10 million operation down to nothing. I was there for the farm sale, like everything, right? So that was, and if you've followed me for a long time, you've heard me say this before, that experience was one of the biggest blessings for me in my life, because it made me aware of what the real world is like. It made me aware of what happens when you do make financial mistakes or when you don't pay attention to numbers or anything like that. And I'm not just calling out my parents. It's the entire operation. It was my granddad. It was ultimately his decisions that he made, not tracking his numbers at the level he should have. And then once that went under, it cascaded down into everybody else that was involved inside of the operation, as you all know. So the thing is, though, is that as parents, we want to protect our kids from making those financial mistakes. And the thing is, though, it's like we also want them to learn valuable lessons at the same time. And I am sorry, but with me and, leaving the banking industry, struggling for a couple of years, started a legacy farmer, everything's taken off from there and has worked really well here the past 3 or 4 years and everything. When I think back over the last 6 years since I left the banking industry, it was the financial mistakes that I made that taught me the best lessons. It was the financial mistakes that I made and had to repay or sacrifice more time and energy in the future for that taught me the most valuable lessons in my life so far and in my business career, right? It taught me a lot about numbers. It taught me a lot about what to do and what not to do. And so with my children here, I'm probably going to take a different approach than what a lot of people do take. And the thing is because me having to start with absolutely nothing, me having to start from ground zero and actually have a negative balance because I had credit card debt and everything when I started, student loans, just like everybody else does. But when I left the banking industry, we were in debt and I was not cash flow positive, was not moving in the right direction I wanted to go yet. But the thing is, though, is that those experiences and all the financial mistakes I've made over the past 6 years were a part of my journey for a reason. God had them in my journey for a reason, and they've helped turn me into the person that I am today. They've helped shape my perspective today, most importantly, on business, on life, on money, on family, everything there. That's helped me shape my perspective. And it's those mistakes, guys, across every area of my life that has ultimately shaped my perspective no matter what area of life it's actually in. Now, the thing is, though, is that when we think about parents, a lot of parents, they want to protect their kids. And I have 4 girls, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I remove my emotional attachment from taking care of my kids as they get older, because the only way that I truly believe that they can learn those valuable lessons, especially about money, is they have to make the mistakes themselves. They cannot have a safety net. Dad cannot step in and save them. The only reason I was able to fail and then keep going is because I did not have a safety net. There was no plan B. There was plan A. We were taking the island. I burned the boats. We were moving forward regardless. And the thing is, I don't want, when your kids and everything, they have that safety net. And I see this all the time inside a legacy farmer and just in other areas of my life as well. The people that have the safety net never learn the valuable lessons that they need to long term. Never, because you have to experience it. You have to be fully in the water to experience how cold it is or whatever. You can't just talk about it. You got to be in it. And you can't also be protected from it either. You need to jump in and experience it all. Now, if you were getting ready to jump into the ocean and you're up by Alaska and hypothermia is an issue, maybe your parents will say, well, you need to put on this suit or whatever, right? So that's your parents trying to protect you from the elements. Whereas the only way to learn the valuable lessons is to get thrown into the elements. I was thrown into the elements. My parents were thrown into the elements. And from that, there were some really valuable lessons. There were some massive changes that came from me in my life and my perspective on my life and what was possible and what I wanted and what I was willing to do for it, right? And those things will always stick with me going forward. But again, when you look at a majority of parents today, they are doing everything they can to not let their kids struggle. And I'm just, my girls might hate me as they get older because I'm going to be the exact opposite of that, because I understand that it's the struggle where all growth happens. I understand it's a struggle where all valuable lessons are learned. I understand it's a struggle where everything that you want inside of your life, this is actually what takes place here. And guys, when you think about all the fortunes that people have made around the world, those fortunes were first created from a family member in that generational line of people that started with nothing, that had to learn those hard lessons there. And they were fully thrown into the environment. They had no safety net. They had to learn those lessons there. So when you think about any great thing that exists in this world or fortune or whatever, it most likely started from somebody that had to learn some really freaking hard lessons in the beginning. And they didn't have a plan B, and they didn't need one. They were choosing plan A, and they were going forward because there was no other option, right? So those are the things that I want to instill in my children as well. And again, my kids are still really young, so I'm not having to deal with this yet. It may change by the time they're 18. I may be a different person, have a different perspective on it. But I'm saying this right now to one, just share my perspective on it, but two, maybe, this will help remind me at some point in the future as well if I shift my mindset to where my kids' growth and what they ultimately become will be built through their struggles in this life, and being there. And, I'm going to be there to support them, and I'm going to provide empathy with them, right? If they're in pain or whatever, then I'll go sit with them and be like, yeah, this sucks. Okay, great. What are we going to do about it? Right? I'm not going to be sympathetic for them and, give them a shoulder to cry on or whatever. I'll be empathetic with them. But at the end of the day, hey, what are we doing to solve this? Okay, I get that it's painful. Okay, great. We don't like this. Let's solve it, right? I'm not there to protect you from pain. I'm there to help you get through pain. It's completely different line of thinking there, right? That's a leader versus a savior. A savior is going to be sympathetic with you. What can I do to help? Can I give you this? Can I give you that? Versus a leader is like, hey, this sucks. I get that this sucks. I get that you feel the way that you do. We can feel those emotions for a little bit, but what are we doing tomorrow? Like, how are we moving forward? How are we solving this problem? Because this is obviously in your path for a reason. Otherwise, God wouldn't have put it here. And so many people, like I said, I see this in Legacy Farmer with our members. I just see this in other areas of my life. They rob their children of the greatest lessons that God is meaning for them to learn because they try to step in and save them or protect them from the actual environment and elements that exist in this world. And so it's going to be very difficult, but I'm presenting this to you today just to give you a different way to think about maybe how you were raised and looking at that, right? But also thinking about, okay, how am I going to raise the next generation? How am I going to make sure that I build a tough generation, a generation of warriors that doesn't matter what happens in the environment, like they're going to survive and thrive, and they're going to figure it out, and they're going to take the hits and learn the lessons, and they're going to just develop into really strong individuals and people on this planet that can really contribute to society at a high level and build something great for their family, right? That's what I want my girls to do. That's what I want them to do. And that is going to be built through learning hard lessons and going through struggles that God has meant for them inside of their path. And it's not my job to rob them of that. It's my job there to support them through that. And to make sure they keep moving forward one step in front of the other, no matter how hard it is. So my friends, that concludes today's episode. I hope you found it valuable. I hope it gives you a different way to think about your journey, and then also how you're leading on the next generation. So that concludes today's episode. We will catch you on the next one. What's up, everyone? My name is Jace Young. I'm the founder of a company called Legacy Farmer, and inside of that company, what we do is we've helped over 300 family farms simplify and streamline the entire financial side of their operation and help them learn their numbers at a deep, deep level so that they can implement the systems and the processes to make sure that their operation lives on for generations into the future.